So touch the leg, everybody. Yeah. So today, our workshop is a very actually important. What is meditation? Big question. And how it affects our lives. So this actually topic is something kind of like I always think that's the most basic question of a spiritual practitioner, because spirituality is based on meditation, and it is something that we all have to understand. What is meditation? And then it is not just enough to understand it or just to know about it. Like the more important is how to practice it. One thing, we always have a notion or ideas of meditation as some sort of like things to do. But actually, meditation is actually a little bit different than doing. It is like if I explain meditation in one word, that word would be being. Just being. Being, and it is something like we have to do something, but just kind of like it is being. So that is why sometimes it is very simple. Meditation is very simple, yet it's not easy. So it is simple that it is somewhere between doing and being. So it is not completely doing. It is like a way of being. And somehow it is just kind of like in Tibetan, we use the word gom for the meditation. So the word, if you want to know what we call meditation in Tibetan, we use the word gom. So it is just kind of like a simple pronunciation of G-O-M. And in Tibetan, we write it with sa, gata, ganaro, gomma, gom. Like, so it is kind of like our character has a interesting way of saying. So there is like one character, there is a sa, and then there is a ga, and then o, naro, and then ma. So there's like actually in this one word, gom, there is actually like a 1, 2, 3, 4, like, and then there's a dot at the end. So it's kind of like it's 5 character there. So what does gom in Tibetan means? Gom actually is like, how can I say in a very simple way? Familiar. It's the meaning. Meaning is familiar. Familiar, that is like becoming familiar, or something like getting closer, or getting near, or somewhere sort of like when you, like for example, when we look at this flower and I say, I am becoming more familiar with this flower, means what is that? You are actually getting closer. And it's like somehow, like in our daily life, we say, I'm becoming more familiar with you. Like when two people becoming more familiar means what happened? They are becoming more connected, right? The more, like it's just kind of like when you become more and more connected to that, then somehow it is like you are becoming familiar. So the word gom is actually familiar. So familiar in what way is it is getting closer and it is getting more connected, and it is just some sort of like knowing more and getting more and more like connected to that. So somehow gom, what it does is it actually bring ourselves more closer to the truth. That's why it's called gom. Like a familiar, becoming familiar. What are we becoming familiar with? To what? Becoming familiar with the truth. Then it raises another question. What is the truth? Right? It's like if you are becoming familiar with the truth, then what is the truth? And somehow, like, then this question actually become more bigger. First, we start with what is the meditation? And meditation is actually becoming familiar and becoming more connected to something. And what is that something? That is the truth. So that truth, so where is the truth? Like when we actually think of what is the truth, then it is kind of like basically we are asking this question to ourselves, like what do I think of the truth? And if I ask you, what is the truth? So somehow I'm asking, what do you think of the truth? Right? It is not like there is no something that is called truth that is somewhere up in the sky. Right? It is just like, what is the truth? Truth of what? Truth of yourself and truth of the existence. So just kind of basically exist. And somehow we all do exist. Right? We are all existing. And how we exist, that is the truth. And it is like His Holiness the Dalai Lama actually one time he said, when we are questioning like knowing the truth, we should not kind of like ask this kind of like why it exists. It is like mostly when we are searching for the truth, it is like how it exists. How does thing exist? How do I exist? How do you exist? How does the universe exist? So how does everything exist? So somehow there is truth is the existence, right? Or the truth of existence. So that is why it is kind of like becoming familiar with the truth. And somehow that is the basic meaning of the meditation. So somehow when we become more familiar with the truth or with ourself, then we are becoming more closer, we are becoming more connected to the truth or connected. So what is the opposite of connection? Disconnection, right? Disconnection is the opposite. So somehow when we are not connected, or when we don't feel connected, when we don't understand how we are connected with the truth, how we are all connected to each other, how the whole universe is connected to each other, then somehow there is a feeling of disconnection. The more disconnect we feel from the truth or from the existence from the reality or from other people, then what it brings is it brings more suffering, right? It's just kind of the more disconnection we feel from the reality and the truth, then we are actually moving away from the truth, and then we create unnecessary suffering or misery in our life. So that is why Gom, becoming familiar, is the main purpose is to feel connected, and somehow that connection, that we connected to the truth, we are connected to the universe, we are connected to each other, and that is not something we have to make it. We are already connected.